Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time you will see this. My name is Kaumbu Mondela. I serve on the board of the Duke of Edinburgh Award here in Zambia. We are very privileged to be at the United Nations office, and we are privileged to be speaking to Ms. Beatrice Mutali, who is the United Nations country coordinator. I hope I got that right. But she's the big boss. And she's allowed for us to speak with her. We're going to talk about the fact that she is an alumna of the Duke of Edinburgh Award in Kenya. It's called the Presidential Award. And we want to hear from her. How has the award helped her? How has it impacted her life? And how will it impact our lives if we do it? So we'll have a good time. Let's go. A very warm welcome. Interesting. I am welcoming you to our interview, but I think you are welcoming me to your office.
Indeed. Indeed.
Good.
So, yeah, let me welcome you to my office and also to the UN house.
Yes, thank you.
Saka.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps for the benefit of our viewers, my name is Kaumbu Mondela. I wear various hats, but for this purpose, I serve on the board of the Duke of Edinburgh Award in Zambia. And we are privileged to have as our guest in her office Ms. Beatrice Mutali, who is the United Nations resident coordinator in Zambia. Not only a global leader, but for us, we are proud and alumnus of the Duke of Edinburgh International Award. I see here, ma'am, that you completed your bronze and silver levels during high school years in Kenya. And in Kenya, it is known as the President's Award Kenya, right? Yes. Fantastic. Thank you for being here. And for the purpose of our viewers, we will hear how the award has impacted you at a personal level, at a professional level, how it has contributed, if at all, to where you are now heading the UN in Zambia. We would like our young people to connect, which is what this is about. So without needless ado, ma'am,
Yes.
Perhaps I could ask you just briefly to tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and your history and connection to the award.
Thank you, Kaumbu, and thanks for the opportunity. Indeed, as you say, I am an alumni of the President's Award Scheme. And to date, I talk about it with a lot of passion, a lot of nostalgia. It is something that I believe has helped me throughout my my life since I joined it. As you rightly said, I did join it many years ago. I think what you didn't say, I joined many decades ago when I was in high school.
Right.
And like I said, I do believe it has contributed in shaping the directions I've taken, in shaping decisions I've made and things that I have done. One thing that for me, when I joined it, one thing that was very attractive about it was that as a scheme, it wasn't like any ordinary club in a school. It seemed to have this integrated, holistic approach, an approach that had various components to it, and requiring that you actually went through the various steps, and by going through the various steps and also various levels, you were able to succeed. You couldn't just do one thing and think I've done it. No, it was gradual. It was step by step, and from that you are able to see yourself moving on as it were. So that was what was very attractive with it. It had, for example, it had this aspect of going through an expedition, and that expedition was not, you didn't just wake up one day and go for it. It required really understanding what you have to go through, all the steps that you have to go through, reading maps, understanding how you read maps, understanding how you are able to use the compass and know how to tell directions from it. Understanding what you need to do in terms of preparing for the event, and then working in your groups as a team to really map the directions you are going to take, agree on divisions of labor, agree on roles and responsibilities, and then set off and work together through the process, ensuring that you succeeded as a team. It was not about you going through it alone, but working as a team. But in itself, it was a challenge because as you went through, you were using a map to decide where you were going to go through, but you had no idea where you were going. You'd never been there before.
Right.
So that was challenging in itself. But getting there, you were determined to succeed. And it would take you a whole day, at least for the bronze, take you a whole day. You had to arrive where you were arriving because that is where the tent was, and that's where you'd have to pitch up your tent. And then as a group again, prepare your meals together and set off the next day. So that determination to succeed, the resilience, the team working in itself was a challenge, and that was what was attractive about it. But that was not the only aspect of the scheme. There was also the other skills that you learned as part of that scheme. Like I said, it was quite holistic. And through, at least from my side, I went through learning how to be a first responder, being available, and this was done through the St. John's ambulance. Learning what you can do to help victims that have been involved in an accident before the ambulance comes. Basic things, for example, managing bleeding, or resuscitating, looking at analyzing the situation and identifying who needs help most. Because it's not the loudest person, but it's the person who's probably silent that needs the urgent attention. But the key thing was learning that skill that enabled you be of help to people in need. So that for me was also attractive. As part of the scheme also, we were required to provide some community service. And I recall working at one of the largest hospitals in Kenya, the Aga Khan Hospital, and dedicating at least 2, maybe 3 of my school holidays, just working at this same hospital every morning, 8 to 5 p.m. It was voluntary work.
Right.
So the whole aspect of volunteerism. Right. But being able to volunteer and the satisfaction that you got out of it. Right. But as you got satisfaction, but you also learned some skills, some life skills. Right. Being of help, supporting without necessarily expecting to get any payment out of it, any reward. So that for me was also really gratifying. And then we also learned, I remember also going through learning how to be a firefighter. So that's why I say the President's Award scheme in itself was very holistic. You learned a lot. And when I look back at it, it was not just about learning those skills. It's about resilience building. It's about team working. It's about roles and responsibilities. It's about taking collective responsibility, working together, and really endeavoring, or really the eagerness to succeed in whatever you do, no matter what. You know that what your goal is, and you'll be determined to get there. And I believe that for me, I believe that it's been very helpful in my career journey. I don't know if you want me to talk about my career journey.
I think it's a natural segue. Okay. I hear you pull out these teamwork, resilience, navigating to a desired end goal, persevering through it, until you get there. Practical life skills. The heart and skills of a first responder, the capacity to volunteer, be helpful, even without immediate gratification. Fantastic themes. Perhaps you could, how have those skills helped, if at all, in your real life work? Like we said, Beatrice is head of the UN in Zambia, and we are grateful for it. To what extent have some of these skills helped get you there?
Okay, I believe they've helped me. And if I took you briefly through my career life, you'll see that I've worked in very many places. I started by working for the government, Kenya. I then, for 3 years, moved from there. I then worked for UNIDO, which is the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, for about 3 years. And then left the UN and went to work for the Planned Parenthood Federation of America. I was still fairly young. I was around 30 years, 30 then, and I joined as an associate regional director for Africa. I say this because at the time I applied for that job, it was one of those jobs you apply for and it's beyond your reach.
Right.
And then you get a shock when you're called.
When they call you.
And you start looking back to see what exactly did you apply for. And you go for the interview and you're not getting it. And then you're called for another interview. And then you're called for the final interview and you get through. So for me, my approach throughout my career has been, I get into a job. I know I'm not perfect, but I make sure that I learn. And that is something that I got from the awards, the President's Award scheme. There was a lot of learning. You had to learn before you get to what you're doing. So I learned. When I took this, just going back to my first job, I went to work in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry as an economist. And I was taken into an area that was marketing. I had no idea about marketing, but I went and enrolled for a diploma in marketing to really understand what it was all about, and that helped me that job. But anyway, moving forward to this job as associate regional director, at that level, but it was in family planning, again an area I'd never worked in. I had to read a lot, and I remember being recruited, and the boss giving me this book on contraceptive technology. It was quite thick, and she told me, "I'm giving you 2 months to read this and understand it, because this is the basis of our work." In fact, she described it as, in this work, you should look at it as the equivalent of your Bible in this work. And it helped me through, it helped me. I got to learn, I got to perfect my skills. And after 8 years, I left that job and moved to the parent organization, IPPF. And the reason I'm explaining this is that, you see, in my career, what I've always done is that once I get to a position where I feel I could do the job with my eyes closed, I move on. I move on to the next challenge.
Yes.
And I believe that is something that I may have gotten from the President's Award scheme. Always looking for something that will challenge me, that will push me to deliver even more. So that's what I've been doing. From the International Planned Parenthood Federation, I moved to the International HIV/AIDS Alliance, heading the Africa team in the UK. And then from there, I moved to the private sector. I worked for a pharmaceutical company in the Netherlands, working both from the Netherlands and the UK. And one of the UN entities, UNFPA, was actually one of my largest clients, UNFPA. I later then joined UNFPA, and then eventually from UNFPA became a UN resident coordinator. So it's basically been that push to take the next challenge, to succeed, and do my best in whatever I do. But as I said, I believe those are skills that I learned from the President's Awards.
Fantastic. I hope somebody out there is being inspired that you can move. Many of our African stories are about really beating the odds. Nobody would be betting on us to succeed, but by the grace of God, the opportunities that come our way, like the award, we find ourselves in positions where we can be useful and even inspirational as you are. Fantastic. Perhaps working at the levels that you have worked internationally, in these global roles, are there some, core face war stories that you can share with the young people where you've had to bring some of these skills to bear on those situations?
Indeed, they are. I mean, the job has not always been in my career life. It's not always been working in a nice, comfortable office. When I worked for Planned Parenthood Federation of America. One of the things that the organization prided itself in doing is working, as they said, where others wouldn't work or where others couldn't work for whatever reason. And in some of those areas, I remember my director, my supervisor, telling me, "You carry your worst clothes," because they were very interior. I worked in Guinea Conakry. I remember being sent to Guinea Conakry. That was in
I don't know where that is.
West Africa. It was in the 90s. And it was not working in the capital, but really going interior in towns and cities where at that time there wasn't electricity was unheard of. You really had to work with a generator if you were lucky. And you had to provide support to health facilities in surrounding areas, and live in not very comfortable places. Some places there was really no place to live. You had to live with one of the staff. They would house you, but use whatever means they were. And for me, you had to humble yourself. You had to have a lot of humility, and really use the basics. Use the bucket bath, for example. But having gone through those skills, that was okay. That was okay. Another place I worked in was in Khartoum in Sudan in 1994. And it was not really just working within the city of Khartoum, but really on the outskirts, working with displaced populations and really ensuring that they were able to get the services they needed. The women who needed the services were able to get the services they needed. These were really women in very difficult situations, coming to the health center with their children or needing access to services and services in family planning and maternal health services, and we had to give those services. It was hot, no electricity, but you had to stay there in the heat of 40 degrees plus, but work the whole day and deliver. I also worked in South Sudan, in those areas. I've also worked while I was with UNFPA in Nigeria during the Boko Haram and being sent to the northeast, where you're traveling in armored vehicles. And at some point, and also really ensuring that you're not traveling as one entity, just in your own vehicle, but you're traveling in a convoy. And I didn't get hit at all in a convoy, but there's a convoy ahead of us that got hit. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. So there are those kinds of situations that I've had to work in. But you get to accept it as being part of life. If you are providing a service in humanitarian settings, difficult settings, you need to be prepared to do it. There are risks, but that is part of the job. And as I said, I think those are part of the things that I've had to go through, but I've accepted them as part of my job. And I would say that resilience and putting service first, I think it's something that you also get from the President's Award scheme.
What have your experiences been clearly, in your storied career, you've had to be part of teams. You've had to probably be led and also to lead, as you are doing now. How have you navigated that? With what kind of skills? You've talked about working in various. You've worked in Europe. You've worked in Africa. So you've been in the real rural areas. You've been, a city girl. How have you navigated, those cross-cultural nuances, particularly with regard to perhaps anything that you might have picked up from the award?
Indeed, I'd say I've been fortunate to have worked in different contexts, different continents, different regions, and I think anybody can do it. I think it's what you make yourself out to be. Because in working in different settings, I think one of the several things you learn several things. First of all, like you said, you work in teams, and in teams you need to really understand roles and responsibilities and respect roles and responsibilities, but also understand that you have to deliver in your role, and you have to give others the opportunity to deliver too. Sometimes even when you think you can do the job better, you need to give others the opportunity to do it. You can never always do it on your own. It is always about teamwork. There's also the aspect of learning and accepting the criticality of diversity and inclusion. Learning to work with colleagues who come from culturally different settings, who understand things differently, but for you finding a way to work with them, because they are also finding a way to work with you. While you may think they are odd in the way they perceive things, they also see that.
Right.
So adapting to that and understanding that is part of the coping mechanisms. It's part of the resilience building, it's part of the team working, it's part of the diversity, part of the inclusion aspect that you really adapt as you go along the way. And I believe schemes like the President's Award scheme teach you that at a very early age, because you're teamed up with colleagues or students who may not be your friends.
Right.
A lot of times they're not your friends,
Right.
but you have to work with them, and jointly you have to deliver with them, and you will only achieve your end target if you can work well together. They may not look like you. Culturally, they may be different from you, but you have to work together to achieve what you want to achieve. And so that's the reality of work, of the world, and the reality of what we live in. The world has become a very global place. Like I said, having worked in all those places, that's what the reality is. We are all moving and working and meeting different people. So I think acquiring those skills from an early age helps one. Perhaps helps you adapt faster or easier as you move from one place to the next. You come to Zambia, for example. I'm from Kenya. Yes, there's some closeness in terms of culture, but there are also differences.
Yes.
But you have to get to understand, take time to understand Zambians and adapt to their way to the extent that you can.
Right.
Because they are also having to adapt to your way.
Right.
Because you may be very strange in what you're doing.
Right.
So it's always about adapting.
Yes.
And giving room and space for others.
Right.
So those are things that I think you learn along the way. The scheme helped me learn that, and I've tried to ensure or remind myself always that I always need to adapt and give space, give room, try to understand others, because that's how you will succeed.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Wow. As we taper, Beatrice, perhaps I'm now thinking about the young people that will be watching this or are watching this, and some may be entrepreneurs, others are thinking about careers, and everybody's thinking, how do I distinguish myself in this very competitive world? What things can I do now that may make the difference for me today and tomorrow. Maybe things like the award. What would you be saying to them? Are there things that the young people should be thinking about and doing, embracing, that will serve them and distinguish them in the days ahead of them?
Indeed, that's a very, very interesting question and an important question. Because, particularly as you ask the question as to what will distinguish them, the world of today is very, very competitive. It was always competitive, but I think for the young people now, it's even more competitive. You have so many young people coming out of, universities, all very qualified. You have those who are coming from vocational training institutions, again, all very qualified, and they're all looking for the same opportunities, whether it is job opportunities or whether it is setting themselves up as, in businesses. Regardless, it's all very competitive. So, as you rightly say, what will make them succeed? And what will make them succeed is exactly the word that you said, what sets them apart from the rest. Because even as you look, as I see, when you look at employers, at all these jobs advertised, you get so many people applying. Of course, if once you're fortunate enough to get yourself long-listed and shortlisted, all of you are qualified.
Right.
But it is that aspect of what sets you apart that will make the decision as to whether you're taken or not taken. A lot of interviews these days are not exactly about what you learned in class, because they can tell from your qualifications you're qualified.
That's right.
But they'll be really looking at competencies. They are competency-based interviews. They're able to discern from the questions they ask you what your team working skills are like, whether you work well as a team, whether you are resilient enough, or whether you are the kind of person who will basically come in at 8 and leave at 5. They will also look at the extent to which you go that extra mile. Are you going to do some background work to really ensure that you are able to come up with a good product or a good, whether it's a paper you're writing? Are you going to go that extra mile and ensure that what you're producing is of quality? Or are you going to give the basic that is necessary? And like I said, they will be able to tell that from the responses you're giving. Do you have the humility to work with other people? So any young person, for me, that has the opportunity to learn another skill, to be part of the Duke of Edinburgh Award scheme, for example, or any other clubs that are out there that give you that extra skill, will help set you apart. It will set you apart because there are other skills that you learn, other life skills that you learn that you may not learn from the book in the school. And that it is that will set you apart. And in also being part of those, you'll also develop other competencies that you only develop through experience of being part of that scheme, that you may not get from the being the best student in the class.
Right.
So you may be the best student, but you may not get the job. And you may try your best, be an average or just above average student, but because you've got these other skills, you've got these other competencies, they can see the values that you have. You're the person who will get that job.
Right.
So I would encourage any young person, if there's an opportunity for you to do something more, volunteer, do some extra skill, join some of these clubs that help really encourage you to push the boundaries. Take those opportunities, because that is what will set you apart.
Excellent. And perhaps finally, if there's a young person out there who's thinking, I don't know whether I have what it takes. I don't know that I can be, what right do I have to succeed? Look at where I'm coming from, look at my circumstances. There are so many people who are better connected, better looking, better equipped, etc. What would you say to that person?
I would tell them, yes, it may be true in some circumstances that there are those who are better connected, but there's a limit to how much they can go. Be yourself, exert yourself. Don't limit your ability, because a lot of times we limit ourselves, or we assume you cannot, you definitely, that is going beyond what you are capable of. There's no chance of you being shortlisted. A lot of people I meet out there, young people, they always believe that to join the United Nations, you need to know someone. Or even to join any private sector company, you need to know someone. Your parent must have worked there. But for a lot of people, they've actually had to fight their way through, and they've had to be very competitive. So I would encourage any young person, don't limit yourself. Go for whatever you think you want. You will get it. You may not get it the first time. You may not get it the second time. You may not get it even the third time. But if it's something that you know you want and you're determined to get it, go for it and you will get it. And again, that's why I still encourage them. Join this Duke of Edinburgh scheme if you can, or join any club that exerts your potential and your ability, because that's what it teaches you. You don't succeed at the first trial. You keep on trying. When you're learning to be a firefighter, you keep on trying, climbing up ladders and running up. You keep on trying until you get it. It's the same thing with looking at career progression. And it's also not just about employment. It's those who want to go into business and set themselves up. You may not succeed in the first instance, but even if you don't succeed, find out exactly why you didn't succeed, and make sure you actually are able to learn whatever skill you didn't have, or whatever omission you had made. Make sure you fill in that gap, and try a second time and a third time. And with determination, you will get it. And I would actually encourage many, look for jobs, but also don't always look for employment. Look to see how you can employ yourself and become self-employed, because as we said, the world is a very competitive place. And both have a lot of satisfaction. In fact, if you're self-employed, I think those who actually are more comfortable in life are those who are self-employed. But the choice is yours. People may prefer to be employed, others may prefer to be entrepreneurs, but go for it. I would say whatever it is you want, go for it and you'll get it.
Excellent. Wow. Thank you for sharing your story with us. There's a lot to tell, clearly. We don't have all the time in the world, but thank you for your generosity. Thank you also for shining light on the Duke of Edinburgh Award. More than just the sum of its activities, a framework for building character, for building values, which are useful not only for the present time, but carry you into what is hopefully a better future for all of us. So thank you so much. I hope that this inspires even one person out there, and look forward to another opportunity to chat with you.
Thank you so much. It was a great opportunity. I enjoyed talking to you. And like you said, I do hope it inspires, even if it's one person, and makes a difference to that one person's life.
Yes. Thank you, Beatrice.
Thank you.
All right.